Hello and welcome to episode 4 of a DFO Rundown Insider Edition. We are a presentation of Bet365. Whatever the moment, it is never ordinary at Bet365. Irfan Ghaffar here alongside David Penyota, who I will be joined by with every Wednesday on this program. Dave is on assignment in Los Angeles. So we will get to why you're there, and obviously news with the LA Kings a little bit later on. But Wednesday morning, a very big deal for Utah and Logan Cooley. Get this, Dave, a mammoth of a contract for Logan Cooley, an extension to stay in Utah.
Well done. Well done. The puns are so easy.
Now. It's it. I'm out.
8 years, $10 million, no bonuses, just straight salary on this contract. And this was agreed to a few days ago. They agreed to terms on the money, the $80 million, a few days ago while the team was on the road. So they wanted a little bit of time to kind of just fine-tune everything, cross the T's, dot the I's, all that stuff. Got done last night and gets announced this morning. And, we had Brian Bartlett on, Cooley's agent, a couple of weeks ago. And he talked about how this just was something that has been ongoing since the summer. They were going back and forth. It was just a little bit of a snail's pace. There was a report that came out that he rejected a deal around $9 million. Brian kind of poured water on that one to say not necessarily the case, but they were going back and forth, as I said, and they locked this in. And we all know how important a player like Logan Cooley is to any organization. But for the Utah Mammoth, no question, a priority to get this done. He fits the core. He fits the core moving forward with the Kellers and Peterkas and everyone. With the relatively young D-core as well. This was a good bit of business for him and a really good bit of business for a kid coming out of an entry-level contract.
Yeah, and obviously, Ryan Smith out there being very excited, obviously sending notes on X, congratulated Logan Cooley. But for the Utah Mammoth, the start had to do something to accelerate to get this done. I mean, Logan Cooley right now is the best first-period hockey player in the history of the National Hockey League, and obviously his team is playing excellent right now as well. So do you anticipate it might have taken a little bit longer, or this was always the case? They wanted to get it done pretty quick?
No, I think because of how much back and forth there was and little progress from that perspective, I think they were just willing to wait things out. And if talks picked up in a matter of days, beautiful, which is what happened. And if it didn't, and they waited till December, January, February, whatever, next summer, both sides seemed pretty comfortable with that too, because they both wanted to get something done. Both sides were looking at this going, we want this marriage to last. It's just starting. We want this to go for a while. So I don't think there was much concern, really. And I do agree with you, though. I do think the start of the regular season for Utah, with how incredible it's been, everyone's nice and happy. So it escalated talks, and when everyone's in a good mood, things get done a little bit quicker. It's either in a really good mood or you're up against a deadline. That's usually how these things work. Everyone's in a good mood. Logan Cooley's in a pretty damn good mood right now. I don't know how much of a mood he'll be when the check comes for that team dinner he's got to drop, but good on him. And again, good on Utah for locking this one up.
Yeah, he's got 80 million sheets. He's got nothing to worry about for paying team dinners. Okay, let me move this over to another player now with the Utah Mammoth, and that's Nick Schmaltz. Obviously off to a fantastic start as well. Is he going to price himself out of the extension range in Utah, and what's going on there with Nick Schmaltz?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Like, we had this on the rundown that we were going to talk about before the news came out, obviously, that Cooley signed. This is an interesting one. So here's what I could tell you on Nick Schmaltz. They had talks in the summer. He's obviously in the final year of his deal. And he's eligible to become an unrestricted free agent next summer, July 1 to 26. They had talks in the summer. It didn't lead anywhere from a contract side of things. What I can tell you is that the Utah Mammoth had trade discussions with teams involving Nick Schmaltz in the summer. Obviously, didn't get anywhere because he's still part of the team. But it got to the point where he even provided, my understanding, according to sources, is he even provided a list of teams that he would accept a sign and trade to. So similar to a few others that are out there, I'll sign an extension and then you trade me, kind of deal. So that's kind of what happened out there in Utah. We'll see kind of, what really, where things transpire, how the conversations continue. One team that was very heavily in the mix, from my understanding, was Carolina. Carolina was really in the mix until they got Nick Ehlers, and he was going to be their guy. Then they kind of put a pause on things from that side of it. But look, with the start that he's had, and with how the team has performed, he's under $6 million now. This might be a scenario where Utah kind of shifts their mindset. Now, I don't think they're going to get into talks now, because as far as I know, there are no elevated contract talks right now. But you got to wonder, if he keeps this up, is Utah going to be in a position to increase that salary into the 8 range, 9 range? It's a big ticket for a guy that is just really starting to explode. So I don't know. That's an interesting one.
8-9 seems pretty steep. The way that I maybe see it, 6.5, 7, the Verhaeghe deal, like something like that. His cap hit is obviously $7 million this season, but we'll see what happens, right? I mean, I think the thing is sometimes players and teams and stuff don't really see eye to eye in the summer, and they want to trade and they want things to go well for them personally. And then you get to camp, and then you get to the start of your season, and then you're like, man, I am playing some really good hockey on this team right now. Like, why do I not want to continue my career here? And then I think it's sometimes, both sides panic a little bit. So we'll see where this goes with Nick Schmaltz. But you mentioned you mentioned the team that was interested. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just before that, I just want to that's open market number. That 8-9 range. Like, if he hits July 1, he's in that range. I agree with you. I think it's going to be, if he stays in Utah, in that 7 range. But again, exactly to your point, I'm feeling good. I'm playing well. I'm gelling with these guys. We could do something. All right, I'm a little more interested now. Like that. I got to imagine he was a little bit disappointed with how those conversations went in the summer with Bill Armstrong in Utah. So let's see if, again, everyone's in a good mood right now in Utah. So maybe that shifts things. Maybe things get ignited. Maybe they wanted to get Cooley done and they shift to Schmaltz. But, again, as I mentioned, it wasn't close in the summer. They came close to trading him. He provided them with a list of teams he would do a sign and trade with. And then things fizzled. So let's see if that relationship can continue as the season continues.
From afar, just watching, if there's one thing that, Ryan Smith and his ownership group think of when, looking at this Utah team, is he's about keeping the good vibes there and keeping everyone happy and things like that. So right now players are playing well, and you never know what's to happen. But I wanted to go back on one of the teams that you just mentioned. That was the Carolina Hurricanes. We talked about them being in the market for wanting a big fish, wanting to make a splash, needing to get over that hump and get to the conference final and get to the cup final and do it, in obviously a pretty significant way. So what's going on there? And are they going to be able to pull the trigger at some point here?
I think so. I think they want to. I don't know if they would go back into the Nick Schmaltz market, because I don't know if Utah, even if they can't come to terms on a deal, would want to move him at this point or later on in the season if he keeps up this consistent level of play. But I think both teams, quite frankly, but from Carolina's perspective, I think they're going to be a team that if there's a big guy available, they're going to have a conversation about it. Like, not internally. Like, I'm sure they will, obviously internally. But, like, they're going to call that team and be like, all right, what's the deal? Like, what's the price? How do we make this happen? And Eric Tulsky, a very smart guy, may say, you know what? For that price, not worth it. I'd rather go in a different direction. But they're going to be in on pretty much any big fish, regardless of position. It's a defenseman, star power, they'll add. They'll get in the mix. They'll be part of that. I know they poked around on Erik Karlsson at some point over the last year or so. Do they go back in that direction? And he's got a full no move. Would he want to go there? Kind of thing.
The Penguins are playing well too.
Right. I know. But like, things have, you know what, Pittsburgh? Thanks a lot. because you guys were supposed to be at the bottom and all your guys were going to get traded. And I'm sitting here going, along with other people going, all right, let's see which guy's next on the list. And now it's like you're near the top in the Metro and you're screwing things up for us. But good for you.
That's because everyone counted out Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, and they went and looked at each other and said, "Yeah, we're still him.
Yeah, right.
We are. Don't do it. Do not do it."
No, Gino's just sitting there, just going, "Okay, all right, I see. I'm back."
We're gonna seem to always have this conversation about the Carolina Hurricanes because they're a team that, for what they want to do and what they want to accomplish, they obviously haven't yet. So we'll see if Tulsky will talk to Tusky's GM in Utah little bit later on.
Dude, you're on a roll. Oh my God. Okay.
It's so bad, but it's kind of good,
It is. That's why I'm smiling, because it's actually decent. I'm disappointed in you, but at the same time,
slap from Los Angeles there already coming my way. But okay, so a team that is not going in the direction of the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Carolina Hurricanes, and the Utah Mammoth, it's the Calgary Flames.
Yeah,
Craig Conroy is going to have a lot of phone calls. I don't know when. I don't know if they've already started.
Yeah, they have.
One of them is going to surround Nazem Kadri, obviously, who is playing in his 1,000th game here in short order. I assume the Flames have some very large plans. I assume he has some large plans and he wants to get that done there. But I don't want to focus on him because we will, I'm sure. But it's Blake Coleman.
Yeah.
What's the latest there? And is it going to be something that might be closer to the deadline or a little bit sooner than later?
Yeah, he's going to be a really interesting player to watch. I know all the spotlight's on Nas, and for good reason. The other thing, too, is just as a sidebar, he really likes it in Calgary. Like, him and his wife and family, they love it in Calgary. So that's going to be a factor moving forward in those discussions.
Kadri?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kadri, yeah. And then obviously second is Rasmus Anderson, who everyone's also expecting to get moved. And by the way, thank you, Calgary, for doing this, unlike Pittsburgh. But now we have guys to talk about, including, as you mentioned, Blake Coleman. Like, this, another year on his contract, very palatable cap hit for what he produces, has a ring. Obviously, so does Nas, but has a ring. This is going to be a guy that I think a lot of contenders are going to look at to target. Now, he has some no-trade protection. He's got a list of teams that he's willing to go to. I do anticipate this conversation picking up for teams, assuming, again, Calgary doesn't right the ship, which looks like it's going to be pretty tough to do. But if they're still kind of in the bottom part of the Western Conference, I do anticipate a lot of contending teams reaching out and saying, all right, A, are we on his list? Can we have is it worth having this discussion? If we're not, then can you just nudge him to see if he'll change his mind? And then B, for those teams that he's willing to go to, what's the price? How do we get there? I think this is going to be, and this isn't to say they don't value him. I just from an overall perspective, I think there's more of an appetite to move Blake Coleman than there would be Nazem Kadri. The price tag for these guys is going to be high. Everyone knows the capabilities. Everyone knows what he did when he got to Tampa and they won, and how instrumental he was to their runs.
He's got a 10-team accepted trade list. Nazem Kadri also has trade protection as well. I think for Kadri, in where he is, how much money he's making, I think he wants to win. I think that for him, it's got to be going to a team that has a legitimate chance to win, where the window is in the next 3 to 4 years, obviously the duration of his contract, where he can go and be that third line guy if they need. I mean, team like Toronto is one of the ones that always is going to be interesting there surrounding that guy. What's going on with the Colorado Avalanche? Are they going to be a team that's interesting? The Florida Panthers, are they going to be a team that is interesting as well? And you just
New Jersey
said it there, the New Jersey Devils, absolutely.
Yeah, one of his former clubs. That's the kind of player that teams like the Devils, teams like the Leafs need. These are the interchangeable, versatile presence that he brings, because he can be interchanged up and down the lineup with the energy and the physicality that he brings. Like, he's a playoff performer, and he hasn't been in the playoffs the last little bit. I'm sure he'd like to go and chase another championship, It's going to be up to ultimately Conroy, but I do anticipate some of those teams at least poking. I don't, and by the way, I don't think they've had any conversations, at least serious ones to this point, with respect to Coleman, as opposed to Kadri, where teams want to know is this an opportunity for us to explore. But I think that will come. I think that will come this season. Again, assuming Calgary is going to be near the bottom, they've got some pieces that some teams are going to want to try to vulture in and pluck away, and Coleman's going to be one of them.
With not just Calgary, but with respect to pretty much everyone in the National Hockey League, when you look at GMs and veterans and aging veterans and guys that are in the final 3-4 years of their deal, how much of that trade list is just for the player to have to the team? Like I've heard before where GMs go to a player and say, okay, we'll do you a solid. I know you've got this list, but where do you really want to go?
Yeah.
Like we owe it to you. You've done a lot for our franchise. You've been a great pillar here, but where do you want to go?
Yeah. Well, I mean, prime example, most recent one, Brad Marchand and in Boston. Now, different degree because he's a legend there and all that, but like they basically said pick. And he said Florida, and that's why the return was what it was, because like you have to have that. And believe me, and you know this as well, everybody talks, players talk, and if you're treated well in an organization, that goes a long way for other players that may have interest or may consider going there one day. And the same vice versa. If you treat them like crap, you don't treat the family well, if this, that, and the other. Well, who the hell wants to go there? It's like last option, which was really Arizona until they ended up moving. So, yeah, I do think, he's got the 10 team. Would he expand on it? Would he alter it? Like, I think Calgary will do him a solid if, again, the other factor here is we don't know definitively if he wants to leave or not. But assuming he's willing to chase another championship and the Flames are at the bottom, I think they'll have that discussion with him and his agent, and they'll go from there.
I will say this about Brad Marchand. He knew he wanted to go to Florida months before the deadline. Like that was the only team. Yeah. The Boston Bruins knew about that in either December or January, that he knew that's exactly where he was going to go. So anyway, some players tell their teams early, the guys that have been there for a long time, and maybe Craig Conroy knows of what's going on or has an idea of a couple of his players. Where you are, Los Angeles, City of Angels. Adrian Kempe. How close is it? If it is any closer, is there a contract stalemate? What's the latest with Adrian Kempe and the Los Angeles Kings?
So I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago that talks were put on hold and that they're expected to resume later this month. They haven't. Nothing substantial anyway. They are not close. There is, unless we wrap this show and Kenny Holland and JP Barry, Kempe's agent, pick up the phone and say, to hell with it, let's just do it. This is not close. There is nothing imminent as of the moment we're filming this between the LA Kings and Adrian Kempe. And it's for me, a big head scratcher. Like there's no question Kempe wants to be here.
Yeah.
And there should be no question the Kings want him in LA long term. Like Anze Kopitar's done. This is his last season. You can't start next season without Kopi and Kempe. You got to keep one of them. And Kopi's retiring, so that's a different story. But like, I'm not sure. And no one's saying anything with respect to, is it a structure thing? Is it a bonus thing? Is it this? Is it that? The only sense that I've gotten from both sides is they're not close. Nothing's imminent as of today. And they're not sure when talks are going to really escalate. Now, that being said, it's not all doom and gloom. They haven't told each other off. And they haven't like hung up the phone or looking, like I'm gonna ignore this call. Like they're not there. But so like at any moment they could have that phone call. So that's a good sign that at least those lines of communication, the window's still open on both sides. And again, both sides want to get this done. It's just this is going to be a grind by the sounds of it. And I know Kempe really prefers to have this done by the start of the calendar year of January of 2026. He doesn't want this rolling further. He may need to accept that this might trickle into closer to Olympic time at the rate that things are going right now.
There's no animosity between the two. It's
Not yet.
just,
No.
is it a sense of the numbers don't work? Because you have to have an idea, Dave, of, he's your big dog. He's probably the most important piece to your franchise here for the foreseeable future. Yep. Like if you're Kenny Holland and the Los Angeles Kings, you know what the number's coming in at, or at least around that area. And if you're Kempe and Air Camp, you're saying, okay, we know how much money they have to spend. So what is it going on that it might take so long?
That's why I'm sitting here scratching my head. Like I don't. Yeah. It's going to be in the 11s. If you're going full term, it's going to be in the 11s. I don't get the sense this is okay. We'll do 11.001 versus 11.99999. Like it's not silly like that. But for me, I've got to imagine structure and bonuses are playing a factor. Like that's, because to get a deal at 11 and a quarter a year or 11.5 on a base salary only, that's a lot simpler than having to finagle the bonus structure and when those payouts are going to be and how that's going to affect other elements as part of the CBA and so on. And it's California is the highest tax rate up or down here in the U.S. versus like Cooley's deal in Utah. Utah's, I think, only 5%. So it's not full zero, but it's a much more palatable number. But I don't even get the sense that the tax discussion is any part of the discussion in this. Like some people like to make it a big deal. I don't think it's a big deal in this one. It's
not when you're making $11 million.
No, right? Yeah.
No.
Plus, I mean, he's Swedish, so there's going to be some other benefits to, being, out of the country and so on. I've got to assume, and I'm even struggling right now to try to piece this together because it's got to be bonus structure for me. That is the bigger head scratcher. Like I think LA understands where the market is and where the ballpark figure is going to be. At this stage, especially after that Kaprizov deal, that's when things shifted a little bit. But it's not like it shifted to astronomical numbers. Like Adrian Kempe's not asking for $15 million a year. It's like this is going to be in the 11s by all accounts. It's just not there yet. And again, the indication I got last night and this morning, nothing is imminent at all.
As we wrap this up, anything else you want to get off your chest, my friend?
We touched on a few teams that are looking at things, that are kind of out there. We touched on Kadri a little bit, and there's going to be the automatic link to Toronto. Because I can tell you, Toronto's, again, looking for a top 6 guy, and they're not against getting a 2C, because if you get another center, you can slot John Tavares to the left. And I think there's some acceptance and comfort there of that possibility. Because last season when they were looking for another center, that was the same process. JT gets moved to the left. You have Nylander on the right. Now everything's been rejigged in Toronto because they're trying to figure out, some consistency. But we'll see kind of where that goes. But expect to hear Toronto a little bit more. Like we know about their depth pieces and how they're looking at, moving out, one of their 95 bottom 6 guys because they've got a ton of them. But more so than anything, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking Toronto's going to start to elevate their search for a top 6 guy. And it wouldn't shock me if it ends up being a center. But they're looking, and I'm curious to see how they finagle it because it's going to be, they're going to need to move somebody out at least because of the dollars. They don't have a plethora of cap space by any stretch. So this will be an interesting one that leads me to believe it might be later on in the season. But Toronto is starting to escalate a bit of a search here just to see what their options are with respect to a top 6 guy.
The signing GM in Calgary for Kadri's extension was? Or sorry, his contract was?
Yeah, was it Brad Treliving?
who is currently the GM of?
The Maple Leafs of Toronto?
There you go.
Wow. That would be something.
So yeah, see how sometimes two idiots can sit here and put 2 and 2 together? It's really funny how that works.
I mean, we're the top tier in that class. We'll see.
No, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a fascinating, obviously, few weeks. But American Thanksgiving, obviously, is where we're going to look at a target date to see where teams really are. And as we get into closer to Christmas and we get into early next season, things will start to ramp up a bit. But David, thank you very much for this. Enjoy your assignment out in Los Angeles, and we will speak to you next week.
All right, go Jays.
Hey, hockey fans, if you enjoyed that video, then make sure you hit the subscribe button right here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. We have you covered for everything you need. Exclusive interviews on The Sheet with Jeff Merrick, all the latest hockey news on Daily Faceoff Live, and you can always get your morning started with Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohn on Morning Cup of Hockey. Don't miss a minute. Hit that subscribe button.